So I was tutoring a student a few days ago, and they told me that they just didn't have time to prepare for the JMSS entrance exam. And I kind of laughed, saying that that's a funny joke because you definitely have time to do that. How much time are you actually spending to prepare? And they said about an hour a day. And I told them when I was preparing for JMSS, I found 3 to 4 hours per day to prepare. And they were quick to defend, saying, "Oh, but I have so many extracurriculars to do and I have other commitments and things like that." And I said, "Stop, stop, stop. Listen. When I was preparing for John Monash, I played 5 instruments. I was a part of 3 school clubs, and I still had tutoring lessons as well. Do not tell me that you don't have time, because I will find it." And this student kind of shrugged it off, and they told me, "Oh, that's just because you're like disciplined and you had really good discipline when you were in year 9." And I told them, "No, not at all. Show me your timetable, and I will find 300% more time in your day to prepare for John Monash." And so they did, and we were able to find 3 times as much time. You have much more time than you think you do. So, in this video, I'm going to break down exactly why you think you don't have time. Then we're going to find more time for you to actually prepare for John Monash. So, let's jump into it. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a calendar app. It doesn't have to be any specific calendar app. Literally any of them will do. I like using Google Calendar just because it's what I have used to link into everything. You can use the calendar app on your computer, on your phone. I don't really matter, as long as you're using some kind of calendar app. And if you don't want to use technology, if you want to kind of stay off the digital end of things, then you're more than welcome to actually get a physical calendar and do the same thing, or you're welcome to use some type of daily journal as well. But pretty much I like using digital calendar because it's easier to clean up mistakes and things like that, and it's much easier to actually do work. So the first thing you want to do when you open up a calendar app is basically change the setting to start on Monday if it doesn't already. All you're going to do is you're going to hit this little gear, click on settings, then scroll down all the way to start week on, and then just hit Monday, and you can change it to whatever you really want to. I don't really mind, so I like leaving it on Monday just because it's easier. So once you do this, what you're going to do is you're going to block off any time that you know for a fact that you will use. For example, let's say school starts at 8:30, and you know for a fact that you need to be there by, let's say, 8:20 in order to get your books and pack your bags and then get to class. So starts at 8:20, in this case it's 8:15, that's fine, and it goes all the way up until around, let's just say 3:45 is when you get home. So from 8:15 to 3:45 you have school, and this is going to happen every single week, for every weekday, Monday to Friday, every single day. So this is school. If you want, you can change the color. I always leave school as yellow personally, just because that's what I associate with the school times on my calendar. It's what I've been using for years. So that. Then it's going to block off pretty much every single weekday for school. What you do from there is then you add in any types of classes and stuff that you have. For example, let's say that you had a JMSS preparation class on Tuesdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., right? Here you say JMSS prep class, and then you type this in. So for me, any tutoring session is usually orange, so I always do this, and then every week you have this. So you click, does repeat every week on a Tuesday. And if this changes for whatever you need to, that's fine too. Now, in some settings, you're going to get something called time insights. I found that this isn't on every single calendar, so I don't know exactly what makes it so that you get time insights or not. But if you have time insights, this is a great way to actually do things with. If you don't have time insights, that's fine. That's why we color code things as well. So time insights breaks down every single week how much time you're actually spending on certain things. So for example, school takes us 37.5 hours in a week, which is a lot of time, right? Now let's say that on Thursdays you have debating club or something, and that starts at 3:30 all the way up until like 6 p.m. And then that's when you kind of get home. So let's say this is like debating club. Okay. Because I know a lot of my students, they have debating club. Let's put this as purple. Okay. So debating club is purple. And then let's say on Friday evenings you have piano classes. So from like 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. you have piano class. Okay, this is pretty similar to kind of what I had to do, except I had piano class, violin class, piano, violin, guitar, um, and piano, violin, guitar, vocals, and flute. So I had 5 classes in a week when I was prepping for JMSS. Probably not the smartest thing to do, but it was what I did. And it looked hella good on my CV as well when I had all those competitions that I did back in the day. And then let's say on Saturday you spend maybe 4 hours tutoring, and it starts from 8 a.m., goes all the way up until 12, right? So let's say this is like a giant JMSS group class or something. Okay, let's just say that. So you have like a giant JMSS group class, and let's say that it's orange as well, in order to showcase that it is like some type of preparation class. Yeah. Now let's say that at 6 p.m. every single week, or maybe 6 p.m., 7 p.m., whatever time it is, you have dinner with your family. So let's block in that time as well. Dinner. Let's say this is a nice little green. Okay, sage green. And this happens pretty much every single day. I might actually set this up on Monday. That way I can block this off, and then it happens every single week. Okay, weekly on, or actually, no, let's do every single day. Every weekday, we have dinner. Okay. And then on Saturday and stuff like that, you might want to eat out with your family. I don't know. Maybe there's some type of event that happens. Saturday's the day you all go out to eat outside. You go to a restaurant or something. You might want to head to the restaurant a little bit later, right? So I'd say on Saturday, dinner is like 7 p.m. Okay. So dinner at 7 p.m. on Saturday every single week. Cool. And again, this is just putting in time that we know for a fact we have to spend. And let's say on Sundays, dinner's a little bit earlier. Bang, bang. Now, let's say on Sunday as well, you have training of something. So let's say you are training from 10 to 1 or 1:15, 1:30. I'll just say 1:30 for the time being. Oh, maybe I'll just say 2. 10 to 2, you have soccer training of some kind. Okay. Again, this is just whatever you want it to be. So let's say this is a club activity. It's purple as well. Okay, so this is your extracurricular stuff. Okay, so now what we've done is we've isolated chunks of time which are free for us. Okay, now let's say that after dinner and after school, you have 2 to 3 hours of homework you need to get done. Fantastic. 2 to 3 hours we can spend around here, 9:30. Okay, so this is homework time. And every single day, this might vary a little bit, but on average, let's just say you spend 2.5 hours doing homework. That's fine. We'll block this off as homework time. We'll say this is lavender, right? So this is homework time. And let's say this happens every single day for the weekdays, every weekday. 2.5 hours of homework time, right? That's a reasonable time. If you're spending more than that, then I would strongly recommend that you do kind of readjust a little bit, because you definitely shouldn't be spending 2.5 hours on schoolwork, homework, because that's just not optimal. And this is coming from someone who, when I was doing preparation, fun little fact, my school had so much homework that they actually had to have an intervention for the accelerated program, because they realized that students had way too much homework. So every single day they were giving us, because we had 8 periods in a day when I was at school, they would say, oh, in every single period, you would get max like an hour of homework a night, right? Or an hour of homework a day. And some days you have like no double periods. So you would have genuinely just 8 subjects back to back. And every single day, pretty much, there was always 3 subjects that would give you 3 hours of homework. 4 subjects gave you 4 hours of homework. And that all stacked up. So on Friday, you would have about 8 to 9 hours of homework to do, not including any of the assignments and things like that. So it was a bit of a nightmare, and people complained. Like, a lot of parents complained about it. And then the school did a whole survey, and they realized, oh my goodness, giving kids too much homework. And so if you're spending more than 2.5 hours of homework, I'm going to tell you now, because I was able to still finish the homework relatively quickly. I didn't spend more than 3 hours at night on homework. I'm going to tell you now, if you're spending more than 2.5 hours, 3 hours a night on homework, you need to kind of check yourself. Okay, so I'll have a whole video on how to actually optimize homework, probably out at some point in time. No guarantees, depends on if I think it's valuable enough. But if you're spending a lot of time on homework, double check yourself, please. Anyway, I have just found a giant gap where we can potentially do JMSS prep. So let's say after you come home, you want to like take a shower or something, relax a bit. Let's say you can realistically only really start doing things at around this time. Right, so 4:30 to 6 p.m. This is JMSS preparation time. And we're going to color this in. Let's say flamingo, let's say pinkish. Okay. This we can duplicate, and we can put this on Tuesdays as well. Or sorry, not Tuesdays, because Tuesdays is our group class day. We can put this on a Wednesday, right? We put this on a Wednesday. We can maybe have 1 hour or 45 minutes or whatever of this here, right? JMSS preparation. And we can have this as pink as well. So now we're filling in the empty space with a little bit of time, right? The entirety of Saturday, we're basically chilling. Let's say we have lunch here for about an hour, or this is maybe our travel time, whatever it wants to be. And then we have basically the whole day to do JMSS prep work. I'm not going to fill in the weekends because I know every single person's weekend is slightly different, but I'm just saying if we add this time, we get so much more time added back in. Okay. Now, let's say some weeks debating club doesn't happen. You can then use that time to prepare for JMSS. Let's say that there's a period of time where you might need to stay in the car for an extended period of time. Maybe you're helping your sibling, or you're waiting for your parent or guardian to come around, and they're doing something, and you are basically just alone in the car or alone somewhere for about 2-3 hours, right? Or maybe an hour. What can you do in that time? Instead of just sitting, scrolling on your phone, watching a video and things like that, you can just look through your flashcards. You can just look through some mock questions. You can look through your notes. You can pretty much just passively try and learn in the dead space. Okay. And you should be doing that pretty much in every single class as well that you're doing. So every single class that you have at school, you should ideally have a couple of flashcards in your pocket and be able to go through them in your own time. And that'll give you around 15 to 20 minutes per like 2 hour to 3 hour block, which is basically another 1 hour in your day in total to actually revise, right? So let's just say that, assuming that you don't like skip lunch and stuff like that, which I don't recommend you do anyway, because skipping lunch is kind of losing the whole point of school, which is socializing, right? JMSS preparation time. In total, you should get around an hour a day, okay? If you're in class and it gets a little bit boring, you have some time to actually prepare, you can pull out a flashcard and try and revise, right? I'm sure you can find 15 to 20 minutes within a 2 or 3 hour block, okay? Now, in the morning, we have some time as well. This could be travel time where you're in the car on the bus. This could be time where you're getting dressed. Maybe wake up a little bit earlier, get dressed a little bit earlier, spend some time in the morning to actually revise a little bit. And then this can be done pretty much every single day. Now, let's take a look at how much time. Initially, we started off saying that we have an hour a day, which is around 7 hours in a week. We now have 10, okay? And if we're able to duplicate this and keep doing this every single week as well, I didn't even duplicate that, we get another 5, 14. We've doubled the time, okay? So we've doubled the amount of time that we have to practice JMSS. And this is not even including the weekends where we're free. So if I wanted to, I can try and wake up 1 hour earlier and get an extra hour in here. If I wanted to, after dinner, I can probably revise for another hour, maybe even 2 hours, right? If I wanted to. Okay, after dinner. Between lunch, if I'm driving home from my group class or things like that, I'm probably not the one driving. It's probably mom, dad, or your parent or guardian or sibling that's driving you back home. You could probably listen to some type of audio recording of you going through your notes and asking yourself questions. Use the time you have intelligently. Don't just go, oh, I have no time in my week because I'm booked out pretty much every single day. I'm going to tell you now, you have more time than you actually think you do. I'll tell you a story. When I was first getting really busy with my business, my initial business, my tutoring business initially, I was pretty much on the phone with clients all the time, right? Because, a lot of clients came to me and they were like, oh, we need these notes filled out. We need this done. We have this problem. How can we fix this? And they were basically asking me a million different questions. And what we used to do was we used to book in certain times throughout the week for basically a 1 hour to 1.5 hour meeting for them to like discuss things. And I realized that the issue was never like, the problems they had were never genuinely like real issues. They were always like small little things, which is like they just didn't know how they can do this. They had a problem with the software. They needed one thing or the other sorted, or they just needed advice and things like that. And so I realized, instead of stacking in a bunch of meetings back to back to back with all my clients, what I could do instead was in between my classes for university, when I was walking from one lecture hall to the other, I would just pick up the phone, text all my clients, and then ask them, oh, hey, are you free? I text like 2 or 3 at a time. And then I just take a phone call as I'm walking through. and then answer their questions. So that dead space of me walking from one lecture hall to the other, I use that in order to actually get my work done. Okay. Same thing for JMSS preparation. When I was walking from one class to the other, I would just look through my flashcards briefly and then try and go through them, because I knew that even 10 minutes of revision is better than no minutes of revision. And what happened to me was, when I actually started doing these clientele calls, I basically freed up 1.5 hours of my week, because instead of using that time to go into a meeting, I had already gotten through it in my dead space. And now I use that strategy all the time. If ever I want to read a book, I don't pick up a book and like physically read it, because that takes a whole lot of time. What I use is the dead space. So I listen to an audiobook when I'm driving. I listen to a podcast when I'm driving. I don't listen to music like what most people usually do. And it isn't because I don't like music. I love listening to music. I love listening to all types of music. But it's because if I want to do the things that matter in my life, I will need to use my time effectively. So if I really want to read a book, like a fiction book or a non-fiction book, whatever it is, I will need to find time. And if I don't have time to pick up and read a book, I need to find alternative ways to do it. So if you're someone who thinks that they don't have time, can guarantee you do. You just need to find the dead space. Find the dead space. Okay. Literally, I get 30 to 40 emails a day from the YouTube channel from just students asking me a bunch of questions. I use the dead space in order to write up replies and send emails and stuff like that, because it's much better than allocating 20 or 30 minutes in the middle of my morning, when I should actually be productive in scheduling and organizing things, in order to get things done. Right? Recently, I had to deal with a whole issue of the invoice system that I use breaking on me, because I had too many clients. I had a giant influx of personal students these days, and the invoice software that I used no longer worked. So I had to basically build a new one from scratch, and it's still kind of annoying. But I didn't do that from just going, yes, I'll sit down and do the work for 3 hours in a day, which would also get the job done. I literally just used it whilst I was waiting for a lecturer to actually get to the room. I was using it while I was waiting for a file to download. I was doing it while I was waiting for a YouTube video to upload. I was doing basically as much as I could in the dead space. And that is what a lot of people are missing, the dead space. That's what you need to focus on. Because if you don't have the dead space, if you don't use the dead space, then you're basically wasting a lot of time that you could be using. You're wasting a whole bunch of time you could be using. So I'm not telling you to go absolutely ballistic on your calendar. I'm just telling you that you can find a whole lot more time than what you think. I found this student 17 hours. And this is, in my opinion, very reasonable things to work on, right? This isn't blocking off your entire weekend to do homework. This isn't blocking off too much time to do homework. Like literally on Saturday, we're only using 2 hours, right? If you are more extreme, if you want to apply yourself further, if you can spend less time doing homework and still get like the same similar results, you can apply more time to do JMSS. That gives you an extra half an hour a week. Half an hour times 6 days, 3 hours. You get an extra 3 hours of preparation time. And that is going to make a difference in many, many different fronts. So use the time you have effectively. Make sure you're actually applying yourself thoroughly, and you'll be in a much better position. So don't just say that, I don't have time. You definitely have time. Guarantee if you came to me during a session, you told me you didn't have time, I will find you time. You need to use your time smartly. Anyway, I hope that helped. Don't comment, don't sub. Log off and do something else now. I'll see you tomorrow.